Welcome to episode 271 of the Grip Strip Podcast. He beat your favorite driver edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host. And as always, I'm with my co-host, the iRacing Indy 500 champion, computer genius, a gentleman and a scholar. His name is Josh Fine. What's going on, brother?
I'm doing great, Phil. Of course, I did not beat all your favorite drivers, but maybe I beat all your favorite iRacing drivers at one time there in that Indy 500. But no, it's been an interesting couple of weeks here on the NASCAR circuit as we head to Mexico. So yeah, ready to get into it.
And we'll cover both Dennis Hamlin's win at Michigan. We'll also hit on Ryan Blaney getting into the win column for the first time in 2025 at Nashville. We'll also recap Stu Ball winning in multiple overtimes in the trucks and the other races that happened at Nashville. The news of the week, which included the announcement of Dodge returning with the Ram brand. Supposedly, Cletus McFarland is connected to that in some way, shape, or form. To be determined. NASCAR won the injunction on front row in 2311, so without an appeal, which I'm assuming will come, they would be running as open cars, I think, here in the next couple of weeks, which would be kind of crazy. So yeah, there's those things going on in the world of NASCAR. We'll briefly hit on IndyCar at Detroit, which saw Kyle Kirkwood continue the trend. Honda's winning every single race this year, and specifically either a Honda of Alex Palou or Kyle Kirkwood. Palou gets wrecked in the race, so he actually didn't finish for the first time in God knows how long. Or else he'd have probably had a 3-race lead going into Gateway this coming weekend. We'll talk about Oscar Piastri continuing his great, solid start to 2025 in Formula One, beating his teammate Lando Norris at the Spanish Grand Prix. And on the flip side, Fish Lips driving like a douche and getting himself penalized to the point where he's a point away or a couple points, penalty points away from getting suspended. Banned for a race, which that ban should have probably came a long time ago because of the way he drives. But the FIA and F1 officiating has been absolute dog shit for years. There's other news, including the 2026 schedule being released and the news of the lead balloon being dropped that once every 5 years, the Canadian Grand Prix now will land at the same day at the same time as the Indianapolis 500, which seems convenient. Supposedly in 26, that'll be in 26, and then it'll happen again, I guess, in 30 or whatever, 31. But that definitely got a lot of people going and got a lot of news stories written about it. The roundup, we'll talk about MotoGP, Moto2, at Aragon, Supercars, at Perth, Rally, Italy for WRC, and then quick previews, World Superbikes at Misano, Indy next at Gateway, F1 Academy at Montreal before we do our previews and picks for the Canadian Grand Prix, Gateway, which will be run on prime time on Sunday night on network television, and then NASCAR Cup's first venture out of the country and since the late 90s, but the first time for a points race, I think, ever. And then the Xfinity Series returning to Hermanos Rodriguez circuit, a little different configuration now, of course, compared to when they ran back about 20 years ago. So we'll preview and make picks for all that. Josh will let us know all things going on in iRacing, gaming, and the sim segment. We'll call it a day. So we'll start with the Cup Series, which saw the Firekeeper Casino 400. Chase Briscoe started on his third consecutive pole, led 11 laps, the first 11 laps of the race. but it didn't work out too well for him. It did work out for two of his teammates, in Dennis Hamlin and Keebler Gibbs. Chris Buescher arguably had the fastest car, or one of the fastest cars. William Byron led the most laps. Carson Hocevar, who, when he isn't running over people, seems to be running up front, which is a common theme. People are making, which I guess we'll discuss here in a little bit, Josh, but there's the comparisons to Earnhardt or comparisons to other drivers. I feel like in a lot of ways Carson Hocevar, I'm trying to think of other rough drivers over the years. He's got like a bit of Ernie Irvin in him, in that he just kind of is like going around wandering aimlessly clueless, and he causes these wrecks with one person and then acts like, woe is me, whatever, I'm not going to change my style, and which is fine and well, but this car, like Alex Bowman, who got wrecked, and says, I've hit a lot of shit, I'm sick of hitting shit, in his post wreck interviews, shows that you don't want to hit anything in this car. And it only takes one of these guys to finally get fed up with Carson Hocevar's lack of, driving, I guess, standard, to put him in the fence, and then he's going to be doing sheet time. Byron is been one of the best cars for a good amount of the year. Leads the most laps again. Charlotte dominated, Michigan dominated. Doesn't come through with the win, but he gets a lot of points. Doesn't get the finish he desired because, of course, running out of fuel. But I don't think once they said it during the broadcast, which we can also mention about the great broadcast that Amazon is bringing to the table. The first time I think I've watched a pre and a post race, I've watched a complete race in decades. And I don't even watch Michigan. I'm not a big Michigan fan, but I sat there and watched the whole time. That's how good of a job they've done. And explaining all the strategies, all the different little nuances, and you had the Junebug and Edwards thing to connect it to Hocevar. You had Kurt Busch go on PRN talking to Doug Rice, talking about Carson Hocevar, and I think there's a lot of Kurt and Kyle Busch in him. If you're gonna go, I think that's a more accurate portrayal, in that he kind of doesn't give a fuck, and he's very cocky about it. But the difference is he's not in top flight equipment, so it makes what he's doing all the more meaningful, in the sense that people have rated him. He's very young, he's very raw. It's like a tall Jeff Gordon with a personality. And it's interesting how Hendrick seems to be kind of lurking around him. Like he might be somebody that would be a driver.
A 48 car.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking too. But yeah, there's a whole lot of storylines. Michigan driver, of course, trying to win at Michigan. Brad's been trying to do that for 15 years, 16 years, and has failed. Hocevar tried, but wasn't going to have enough fuel. A lot went on. Buescher was there late, but Denny Hamlin beat everyone's favorite driver, unless your favorite driver is Denny Hamlin. And getting a third win of the year, tying himself with both Larson, his buddy, and Chris Bell for the most wins so far this year, and giving himself a nice cushion that if he decides he wants to take this week off to go and be with his fiancee Jordan on baby watch, which has been going on, I think, for about 3 weeks now, he could. But a lot of things I brought up there, you can go whichever way you want to go with it, man. A lot gone on here in the last few weeks in NASCAR Cup Series action.
Yeah, of course. I think, starting off there, with the winner, Denny Hamlin, of course, his first son on the way. at some point here. So, hopefully that all goes well. And if he's got to miss Mexico to attend the birth of his first son, so be it. So hopefully all that turns out well, and hear good news soon there. But as far as what happened on Sunday, I mean they just had a good strategy, I think, with the fuel there, and they got the fuel in when they needed to, and Denny did a great job of managing his gas in the draft there, I think, and he had a really good handling car there. Definitely had a couple of moments. Of course, had the moment off of 2 with Larson there, almost getting sideways there, and recovered from that. And now he's won at Michigan for the first time since like 2011, I think. So, great win for him there. And it was definitely an interesting race there for sure, all the way around. I mean, I'm definitely a fan of Michigan in the way it races. I have to say that, I guess, like, having watched that one in full, and going over the years, since they've gone to next gen, and throughout the 550 era of horsepower in NASCAR, I would say for the Cup Series that this was probably one of the best Michigan races in probably like 10 or 12 years. So I think the last really good one that had like at least a compelling finish there was probably 2014, I think. And then going with fuel mileage, which we haven't really seen in Michigan for a long time there, with guys potentially running out of gas there at the end. We haven't really seen a finish like that since like Mark Martin in 2009. So it wasn't quite as dramatic as that, though, with guys just dropping off, running out of gas. But it was definitely interesting to watch there. And obviously William Byron running up front there, burning up a lot of gas. Thinking that basically hoping for caution, or hoping to have something happen, and just kind of taking whatever they could get with that. Ends up running out of gas there before the final lap, and has to yield the win for 28th place finish. Of course, still got stage points, so they got covered there. And they still lost points to Larson. They lost like 8 points or 7 points on there for the points from last week to this week. So not too much of a change, but it is worth noting, later in the year, it could be a factor later in the year as, we go into playoff time and all that. When you consider the amount of, playoff points that the winners get versus, just winning a stage and not having those wins to kind of, back you up there, because he still only has one win in the Daytona 500, and, he's had 2 wins in the last 3 weeks, come up dry, with Charlotte, and not having the handle there at the end to hold off Ross Chastain. And then this one with, running out of gas there on coming to the final lap. So, definitely. And then, of course, he lost the battle there with Hamlin there, who had, I think, better handling car at the end. And then, of course, had the fuel mileage there to back it up, so he could take more risk there. So definitely something to look out there as we progress later into the year and into playoff time here in the Cup Series. So still, though, Byron's had pretty good speed throughout the year, and definitely been fairly consistent otherwise there. And then, of course, Hocevar, which, that was going to be an interesting storyline if he could, of course, the last couple of weeks been really running really good, ran well the Coke 600, but had engine failure there last week. Of course, got into Stenhouse, and people were talking about his driving standards, but then he still ended up finishing second. And then this week has a chance to go out and win the race, but then flat tire, the same fate that he had in the Truck Series the day before, ends up taking him out of the running there. So unfortunate run. And it does, with the way that he's been running, you mentioned like the way he's been able to take these cars that probably aren't as good as what he's being able to run in them and run up front or run close to it. It does speak well for his talent. And considering, with Justin Haley, who I think a lot of people thought would do really good in this car, considering how he did at Rick Ware, and with having Rodney Childers as the crew chief for the first part of the year, thought that would be a underdog guy that could get a 20 or compete for at least top 20s, and kind of be one of those sneaky guys that kind of performing at the same level what Hocevar is right now. Considering how they're not doing that well, it makes Hocevar look really good here to start the season, or what he's done so far to this point. And you mentioned with Kurt Busch, who latter part of his career, running the 51 car, running the 78 car, two cars that weren't really that good, and even the first year of running the 41 car wasn't that great of a car that year. Running up front a lot and doing, getting the most out of it, and clearly, overperforming, relative to the type of car he had. Kind of reminds me of that, I guess, in a way. So that's definitely another way to look at it there. And yeah, definitely Kurt was also another guy that was aggressive. I don't know if he was known. I mean, well, there was one race where he ran into a bunch of guys, but winning at Bristol. But I mean, I think I don't know if he really had that reputation same way as Hosvar does, but at the same time, he was a pretty aggressive guy. So definitely something to think about there as well. But yeah, those three guys, I think, definitely at least the second half of the race, that was the storyline there. First part, Chase Elliott ran up front, and then this bad pit strategy, bad luck, puts them in the middle of the field, and they finished 15th. And of course, Blaney was up there too at the beginning of the race, but then they had the issue spinning out there around halfway before your pit stops. So, and then they ended up losing 4 laps or so, so that took them out of the running there. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that happened in this Michigan Cup race, but like you said, the coverage was great. I think adding the fuel strategy, listing the guys that were trying to make it to the end there, with the burn bar which I think that might get a little corny, but it was definitely a very, very good, insightful matter into how to display the fuel rates between the leaders, and who was saving the most amount of gas there towards the end. So I thought that was an interesting bit there. And then also, I think another thing that they did with the broadcast, if you notice, whenever they have two guys battling and they show it on the scoring pylon on the left hand side of the screen, they do it differently. They don't Fox and other guys, they'll show the tracker on the two cars, but I think here with Amazon, they're just expanding out the leaderboard there to highlight the two drivers fighting each other for that particular position, rather than not showing that. So I think they're able to highlight who's battling on the leaderboard without compromising the rest of the screen. So really good effort there on that presentation, and definitely I think Amazon, across just all of motorsports, they're definitely bringing their A game, and I think it's going to have to force Fox and probably NBC as well, which is interesting because I think this is the NBC production crew, if I'm not mistaken here, that they're using for this, but definitely going to be forcing those two companies to reimagine their broadcasts in the future. Of course, Fox also has IndyCar, so I think comparisons, which not much, but still with Fox NASCAR and Fox IndyCar, there's still quite a bit of a standard there too. So we'll see how Fox is able to improve, which I don't have much hope, but they're definitely been on notice this whole year, so we'll see. But yeah, I think overall, definitely great race overall, and definitely was presented very well.
Yeah, I mean, we still have 2 races with the crew here with the Amazon, hoping to attend one of them, so I might end up not seeing the Pocono broadcast, but the fact is they've done a great job. Carl Edwards does a great. His energy is great for TV. You have LaJoie, who, for as bad of a driver as he is actually really good on his job on TV, and I think it almost speaks to the fact that once upon a time he was a crew chief, and a pretty good one at that. He won't make as much money as he would as a driver, but maybe a better idea. But either way, then there's going to be the TNT, which I think in a lot of ways is a continuation of, it'll just be way more commercials, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that they've had a great start here these first 3 weeks that they've run these races here. And it's something to say I'm looking forward to watching a cup race and watching the coverage in general, because I haven't been able to say that in a long, long time. And so the fact that that's the case right now speaks to how good of a job that they've done. And hopefully they can continue it on TNT in some way, shape, or form, and then NBC can take that momentum with Lee Diffie and carry it out the rest of the season. I wanted to rant about Chase Briscoe and the fact that they are like the new Ryan Newman of the day, where they do everything on Friday or Saturday and don't do jack shit on Sunday. But then it's James Small. This is the same reason that Martin Truex Jr., who's a Hall of Famer, became, a 15th place guy the last couple of years. They have a terrible pit crew. James Small is a terrible crew chief. The only thing that they changed is they changed to Chase Briscoe, who's got less experience, way less experience than Martin Truex, and has been driving B or C level equipment for the last 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe. He won one race at Phoenix, then looked like the worst driver in the playoff, then put it together in the playoff in 22. In 23 was a total nightmare. They got penalized 100 points after Charlotte when they had the worst race car, I think, that had shown up there since Del McCowart or something. And then last year they needed a Hail Mary win at the Southern 500 and then use that momentum to kind of do something in the final 10 races of Stewart-Haas's existence. So I know that most people don't rate Chase Briscoe. That's fine. I'm biased because I'm a Chase Briscoe fan. But the reality of the world is I know what kind of driver he is when you give him the kind of car he needs. He won 9 races in an Xfinity car and made Gumby Cindric work for an Xfinity title. He's beaten Kyle Busch head-to-head at the Southern 500. He beat everybody at Phoenix. He's won races. He's won as many races as, certain other guys out there, including my second favorite driver. So it might be a problem with me and who I pick. But, now Gibbs is starting to turn the corner. Hamlin and Chris Bell have 3 wins apiece. They're set. They're getting ready for the playoffs. There needs to be a focus on the 19 car to get him solid, because right now he's on the cusp points-wise, and this weekend's Mexico City, and it's entirely possible and probable that the guy who's 34th in points right now couldn't win and would take away a spot. So do you want to get bumped off for the guy who's 34th in points, or do you want to actually control your own destiny? I'm not so sure about Mexico City for Briscoe, but it's a new track for everybody. Pocono, I think, is an opportunity. We'll talk more about it next week, though. And then the week before was Nashville, and, Blaney getting that win was huge for the 12-team Penske, coming off of all the controversy of Indianapolis. Blaney beating Hocevar there. Blaney led the most laps. Denny Hamlin led the second most laps. It was really 3 drivers. Briscoe led 51 laps, but finished 17th. Blaney had the best car, really, and went out there and showed him why he's a championship contender every year. His buddy Bubba Wallace went from tailback at the start of the race to get back up to 6th. You have a lot of those guys that we have to look at and consider for this championship. These last 2 weeks, those are 2 guys that we really have to consider for the championship. Byron is going to be another one. So we look at the point standings. Current point standings, Byron leads the regular season points by 41. So over Kyle Larson. Larson, Hamlin, Bell all have 3 wins apiece. Then you have a pretty big drop off points wise to Blaney, then Chastain, Logano, Cindric, and Barry, all the winners so far this year. William Clyde Elliott II and Tyler Reddick are the first two cars that are on points, and as of now, right, I would say are without having another 7 winners. I think both of them look pretty good. Bubba's had a solid enough year, but he had a bad run for a month. He's in 12 plus 61 over the cut line. Briscoe plus 41. And then the sweat really starts here. He definitely starts here with Chris Buescher at plus 20. Bowman, who's had a brutal recent stretch, plus 13. And Buescher's driving the 16 car on J-Ski. And then Ryan Preece right now is tied with Kyle Busch for 16th, but the playoff point is the difference there. Carson Hocevar, AJ Allmendinger, minus 18, and Richard is minus 20. Of course, lost a lot of points because of the wreck that Hocevar junked him. And so that's that's where how close the close group. You have after that, it's kind of a struggle. I shortchanged SVG. He's actually 33rd, but he's like 29 points behind Brad Keselowski. And then you have certain other guys. Suarez is 28th in points, so there you go. Keebler 24th. So yeah. All right. Get into the trucks. We saw it looks like DSQ, but it's DQS Solutions and Staffing 250. Multiple overtimes, 14 laps extra in the race. Saw Stuart Friesen get a win, 4th Truck Series victory of his career. Gets the win over Grant Enfinger, who had 31 laps. Luke Fenhouse started on pole. Ben Rhodes, so 2 Door Sport trucks in the top 5. Corey LaJoie, the best of the Spire trucks, started 24th, finished 5th. Crafton, Garcia, so 4 Door Sport trucks in the top 7. That's a first for a long time. Chandler Smith from tailback to 8th. Andres Perez, 9th. Lane Riggs, 10th. Carson Hocevar had the best truck, but he had a tire issue. Gio Ruggiero was up front in one of the late restarts. In the end, there were 18 trucks on the lead lap. Heim had won both stages, but was buried there late. Frankie Muniz gets a top 15 finish, so credit to him. Just ahead of the defending series champion, Ty Majeski. So props to Frankie. We have Raja got wrecked. You have Lawless Allen. Yeah, there you go. Hemrick and Lawless Allen were involved in the wreck. I think it took out Ross Chastain. Stuart Friesen won. It was you had overtime finish and stuff that took place, but I think the greater story, other than just the lack of talent at the end of races, it seems, is Door Sport. 4 trucks in the top 7. Random for sure compared to what they've been doing for a while. And then they're going to a track at Michigan or at Pocono, which is going to have a lot of similarities with the kind of what you need in terms of drafting. Of course, they're going to be shifting. That'll be a different thing, but turn 1 has similarities to Michigan. So a lot of things to take away in terms of the Truck Series. Josh, another crazy race. Now there's 6 trucks that are locked in to the playoff, so that only leaves 4 drivers or 4 openings for points at the moment. And it's actually a very close battle for the cutoff between 2 teammates there. And then after that, you're basically going to have to win a race. So interesting result there at Michigan for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think, with the Truck Series, you mentioned Thor Sport, and it is kind of random to see them all kind of finish up in the top 10 there. But they did qualify well, so give them credit for that. But I do think that part of their finishing order did have to do with some of the carnage that we saw at the end, especially with the big restart wreck there at the green white checkered. So, but still, I mean, they still avoided all the carnage and able to come through with all in the top 10. So I'm sure their team's very happy about that, and we'll see, like you said, how they will do at Pocono, which is very similar in terms of downforce and speed that you need at the end of the straight. But the race was definitely interesting. There, they had position swapping up front. Enfinger led a lot of the last portion of that race, but then Chastain looked like might have had an opportunity there at the end in the 44 truck. Then Hocevar took the lead there and thought, oh, maybe Hocevar is going to get another Truck Series win here the last month or so. But then caution comes out, and then Hocevar has flat tire. Then crazy restart wreck there at the end and causes everybody to crash. Then all of a sudden we see Corey LaJoie having an opportunity there to get a win there, but he just doesn't have a good restart there, and then loses the lead off of that restart, and then Stuart Friesen ends up picking up the win here. So a lot of craziness here at the end of the truck race, which not unlike the Truck Series in some regards, but the first time that they've raced at this track since 2020 there. So there was definitely a lot of carnage that they had to make up for over the last couple of years of not racing there. Corey Heim had an opportunity there he led a good number of laps there, but then got caught up in that restart wreck. So another race where he could have potentially won there, because they were definitely saying, talking about how he could have potentially won there or had a contending car there in the top 5 at the end of that race. But a lot definitely happened there. Frankie Muniz had an opportunity for potentially a top 5 until that restart at the end after making it through the big wreck. Had an opportunity there. He was in like 3rd or 4th place, but then just didn't have a good restart. Left the car or the truck in 3rd gear, so didn't have the right gearing in place and dropped like a rock on that restart. Second to last restart of that race. So it was definitely an interesting turn of events there to see Stuart Friesen come out with the win. Of course, Grant Enfinger almost had an opportunity to kind of swing it back into the lead there at the end before the checker flag flew for Stuart there. So big turnaround for Stuart Friesen, of course, who hasn't really had the best of luck here lately in the Truck Series, and it's even questions of whether he should continue racing here in the Truck Series versus competing in late models or dirt racing, where he probably has a better chance to win on a week-to-week basis. But now this win here puts him in the playoff contention, so we'll see if he's able to perform in the playoffs. But of course, just being in the playoffs gives their team new lifeblood in terms of coverage and attention and, of course, money. So definitely does a lot for him there. So, we'll see how they're able to parlay this win into possibly contending for the playoffs here, which isn't that far away, which is weird to say for the Truck Series. But, we'll see how he's able to perform here. And, the next coming races, how this changes their outlook here on the season. So, looking forward to kind of seeing how that plays out.
Friesen, he goes from, I think he was, right now he's 10th in points overall. So that moves him up from 10th in points, which he was actually ahead of Raja. So there you go. So he's actually 4th, 5th. He would actually, 1, 2, 3. He's actually going to be 4th. He'd be 5th actually in points. So 5th as of now with the win, moving up from 10th. He was on the cutoff, and he was 9 points ahead of Ben Rhodes in overall points. Right now, though, the cutoff for the top 10 actually is defending series champion Ty Majeski, who's only 4 points out of his teammate Jake Garcia. So that's a pretty interesting dynamic there. There are no Door Sport trucks right now locked into the playoff, and you have those two that are right there with each other, and Ben Rhodes, who's minus 55 back, and then Matt Crafton, who's minus 112. So over basically two races behind That's basically, I mean, for all intents and purposes, you have to win. I mean, right now you have what is it, five races to go before the playoff. Two of them road courses, two of them short tracks, and then you have Pocono, which is the first one coming up. They're going to have back-to-back races, Pocono and Lime Rock, and then they're going to have a long break before they run 3 races in 4 weeks, and to run out their regular season. Xfinity ran the Tennessee Lottery 250. It saw Justin Allgaier lead the most laps, win both stages, and win the race. So maxing out on points there. I think he also had the fast lap point or whatever. Connor Zilic finished second. Sam Mayer, Sheldon Creed led 25 laps. Chastain was fifth in the 9 car. Al Murillo sixth in the 19 for Gibbs. Hank Hill, Jesse Love, Carson Kvapil, Sammy Smith, your top 10. Corey Day just outside of the top 10 in the number 17. The other guys there had some stage points. D. Burrito actually got decent stage points in the first stage. Rare. Sawallich led 37 laps and started on pole before he blew up. And then Daniel Dye got DQ'd. But yeah, you had Sawallich there, ran up front, but then he blew up. It's not like that. I mean, he's had a pretty pathetic year, but what is continued is the junior motorsports as a team, as an organization. They have shown a lot of strength, and you have 3 of their cars in the playoff or with wins. 5 total wins amongst the 3 drivers that are already locked in. And then you consider Carson Kvapil is in the mix points-wise as well. They've shown to be very, very strong. It's going to be hard to see. I mean, other than, I would say, I guess, RCR. RCR is there. You have Gibbs with Buckshot. But he's Buckshot. And then you have Haas with Sam Mayer, but Sam Mayer kind of makes the same kind of mistakes that he did in junior motorsports cars, but they're not as fast yet. And then Sheldon Creed doesn't know how to close. So it's hard for me to see anybody beating a junior motorsports car here as we get towards the end of the season. But that's to be determined, I guess. We'll see. But JRM showing out at the moment with better speed on these 1.5-mile racetracks and having good versatility, I think, which bodes well for them in the long run here.
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially with the way junior motorsports has been running this year, proving not that their championship with Justin Allgaier was a fluke, right? Because I think they definitely did deserve that, but making a statement after that they won the championship that they're going to continue to dominate, I think shows a lot about how they've been performing this year and where their mindset is as a team and where they're headed so far this year. And I think the fact that they've won on non-restrictor plate tracks, they've won on the tracks that will matter down the stretch in the playoffs. You mentioned Austin Hill. Austin Hill has won Atlanta and Talladega, and he's won Martinsville, which is important. But those 3 tracks are, well, at least Martinsville and Talladega are definitely important in the playoffs. But I think it's more important that Allgaier has won Nashville 1.5 miles, won Las Vegas 1.5 miles, and Homestead with 1.5 miles. So I think more diversity there with Allgaier's wins so far, I think are more reflective of the pace that they have as a team. So I see no reason why Justin Allgaier shouldn't be a shoe-in for the Final Four, potentially even the championship here. So I think as a company, Junior Motorsports, of course, they've done well outside of Sammy Smith Sammy Smith, of course, did win at Rockingham there. So, definitely, they've done well as a company. Still waiting for Carson Carson Kvapil to get a win here, first win in the Xfinity Series, which I think will be coming soon. I think they've definitely had opportunities so far this year. They just haven't had the luck yet to pull through for a win. So the dominance Allgaier's put on the season, just I think it's going to be pretty tough to beat him there. But the rest of the field, I mean, the Haas cars have been running well as well. Sam Mayer, Sheldon Creed been running well, but they haven't run well enough to be up front at the end where it counts. So still looking for first win for Sam Mayer this season, and then for Sheldon Creed this year in his career. So there's still definitely a lot for them to improve on. But I think Junior Motorsports, in the Xfinity Series this year, just their performance has been phenomenal.
We're going to talk about it for the Mexico City preview, but the way that the schedule kind of lands outside of course, the super speedway type tracks. Really, this area, with a lot of road courses, you have a variety of different tracks. And the playoffs don't even start until the middle of or early September, so they have a ton of road courses coming up here, starting with Mexico City. You have 5 road course races, 2 super speedway races, Indy, of course, which will be on the oval, so it'll be a slow plodding race. So there's a whole lot of opportunity here with 12 races, 11 races to go, whatever, in the regular season. Some of the other news, I mentioned the lawsuit, which 2311 and Front Row Motorsports lost there, or at least the injunction. I think it was, whether they say they vacated, or you had Dodge's announcement with Ram coming back in 2026 in the Truck Series. Haven't announced who they're running with. Curious about it. Yeah, rules in favor of NASCAR, so that was appeals there. And then, Kyle was not running. Oh, he was going to run a V8 Supercars event. Yeah, Jim France trying to rent a Spire car, but so he was looking at getting Jack Aitken, who drives for him in the number 31 Whelen engineering Cadillac. It was being Spire. So same price as Spire on extra cars and such resources. So there was that. We had other. I'm trying to look through the news there. At Nashville, even with Connor Zilic, he had with lugs, so Marty Lindley was suspended for so he'll be suspended for this week, actually. So that'll be tough for Connor to try and win a second road course race this year. They renamed Atlanta Motor Speedway, but I'm going to still call it Atlanta Motor Speedway. Rockingham, but it was put up for sale after a great return. Hopefully somebody buys it and keeps it on around. I don't know, is there anything you wanted to hit on amongst any of those stories? There's some announcements of teams and sponsorships and whatever, but I guess the one thing I would say is the 2311 Front Row deal. As of now, we don't know what their response is going to be. I kind of can gather or venture to what their response is going to be, but a big win for NASCAR and the France family there in regards to the whole charter situation. for the way things are going for 2311. And I think it's definitely affected Front Row Motorsports because their performance has not been anywhere near as good as it was last year. I think it's affected them more. It's affected both teams, to be fair, but I think it's affected Front Row more because both 2311 legitimate cars are in the playoff at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this storyline plays out. I mean, yeah, the injunction here changes everything. Losing the injunction now, big win for NASCAR, like you said. It's definitely concerning to see how this is going to play out, especially with how they're going to organize, or I guess consider the charter and how that's going to play out. Will they be charterless for the rest of the year? Will 2311 and FRM try to do something here within the next 14 days to try to maintain their status and hit back against NASCAR, or they just continue on to the trial here at the end of the year? So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And it also throws in a wrench because I think the contracts for both Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick have clauses that they have to be chartered. So there's also potential that they could become free agents if this matter doesn't get resolved, and hopefully neither of them don't become free agents. It's hard to see them, want to leave, but or try to. I mean, I would imagine that neither of them actually want to leave their team, but the contract clauses could provide an opening where they become free agents, and I'm sure both of them would get swept up by some other team that's looking for a top tier driver. So, which would be hard because I don't know other than, well, maybe the 48 if that becomes open, which I don't think that will be because Alex Bowman's pretty good with Ally, but it would be hard to see either of them leave 2311 as it is. So I don't really have anything to add more on that one as far as legal stuff goes, because I think it's just now a matter of just wait and see here. But yeah, maybe I guess it has affected Front Row more than 2311 because they have not really had really good performances throughout the year. I mean, Noah Gragson hasn't really done that well in points. I mean, he's had some runs here and there where they've ran well, but they have never gotten the finishes that they maybe deserve to get, getting caught up in accidents or just having stuff happen to them. Zane Smith, Todd Gilliland, they both have been kind of hot and cold throughout the year. So and then 2311, I mean, they did have a bad stretch, but the last couple of weeks, Nashville and Michigan, they've both begun to turn around with Tyler and Bubba. Of course, Riley Herbst out to lunch here, first year here in the Cup Series. So we'll see how this affects them, and the fact that they're trying to expand to a fourth team with Corey Heim there next year, possibly. So yeah, we'll see how this goes here throughout the rest of the year and everything. And then I guess the other thing, with the Echo Park Speedway renaming from Atlanta Motor Speedway, I don't know. It doesn't seem iconic, I guess. And definitely this, the fact that Marcus Smith's brother owns Echo Park and Marcus Smith, owner of SMI, Atlanta Motor Speedway, definitely kind of very, very convenient there. Lowe's Motor Speedway, of course. I mean, I don't know the history behind that one, how that came to fruition, but of course Lowe's was headquartered in North Carolina in Wilkesboro, so for many years, and I don't know if they still have corporate headquarters there, but they definitely are headquartered in North Carolina. So that did kind of make sense there with the connection there. And then Auto Club, of course, sponsored the Auto Club 500 many years before, having the naming rights to that speedway or former speedway in Fontana. So, those ones, yes, corporate sponsor can work, and those ones did, but this one just seems kind of cheap in terms of the ability to go and do that. And I don't think anybody will really refer to it as Echo Park Speedway, just as much as for a few years, I think that company ISM sponsored Phoenix and had the naming rights there. So it just, to me, that seems like to me that naming rights sponsorships for tracks doesn't really work out like the way in other sports where you have stadiums that have the naming rights to, like with the Jaguars, they have TIA Bank Field, and we call it the Bank, right? And for other teams like the Patriots, they just refer to it as Gillette. It doesn't really hit the same as it does for racetracks as it does for some places in sports. So but it is a thing, I guess. It has to be a thing for some places. So hopefully this doesn't start a trend or anything like that. But it's kind of cheap to see that happen, I guess.
Marcus Smith without doing something cheesy once in a while. He has the good with North Wilkesboro to a point, and then you have to go and turn it around with Atlanta and changing it into a drafting track, and then changing the name to one of the family businesses, being the sponsor of the track, but whatever. We'll move over to the Indy cars. They ran at Detroit and the Detroit streets, which is quickly becoming one of the crappiest racetracks I think they've ever ran in IndyCar. Of course, it's going to be super rough. It's very hard to pass. But Kyle Kirkwood started third. It was a 3 pit stop race, and he was able to go out there and get a big win. Root Beer Floathead finished second after starting 21st. Colton Herta started on pole, led 11 laps, finished third. Will Power, fourth. Kiffin Simpson, a career best fifth. Marcus Armstrong was sixth. Pato Award, Lundgaard, Newgarden, Rossi rounding out your top 10. Scott Dixon, Scott McLaughlin just outside there. David Malukas started second but ended up 14th. Christian Rasmussen actually led 21 laps in the race but had a mechanical issue. Rinus VeeKay had problems. He got in the fast 6 but then had mechanical issues early in the race. Alex Palou got wrecked and finished 25th, so that's his worst finish he's had in a long time. You look at, Foyt, they did get penalized or whatever with the post-race, but in the end, that's the best finish for the 14 car on a road course in a long, long time. Thinking maybe the days of when Bourdais was driving for them a few years ago. Can't pinpoint when it was, but Andretti getting 2 drivers on the podium. You had Kiffin Simpson. Of course, you had different varying strategies that, of course, played a part in the race. And so you look at and then there were, there's 5 cautions in the race. You had 10 different leaders. So, there was some level of action. There was a period of the race where it was pretty clean after the second caution. Then once the yellow came out on lap 67 for Callum Ilott, it kind of opened the door. That was Malukas went and bumped Alex Palou, knocked him out of the race there. They didn't take, it didn't take too long for them to clear out some of these cautions, actually. Only 3 laps for 3 of those cautions. The 60 car, of course, Felix Rosenqvist got into it with his teammate. Then he also got into it late with Louis Foster. So unfortunate there. Loses a lot of points, currently 6th in the championship. So loses out on major points there. In terms of the points standings going into this weekend at Gateway, Alex Palou has a 90-point lead with his first non-top 5 or top 10 finish of the season over Pato Award. Kirkwood 2 wins, but is 12 points behind Pato Award for second. And then Christian Lundgaard is 4th, 16 points back of second place. Then you have a huge gap to Will Power, tied with Rosenqvist for 5th in points. Tiebreaker, more top 5s for Power. Dixon in 7th, a couple points behind. Then McLaughlin, Herta and Marcus Armstrong rounding out the top 10. Dave Nalukas, Newgarden, Rossi, all very close to Armstrong points-wise there for that last spot in the top 10. Okay, yeah, and then, and then Formula One, we saw another Oscar Piastri victory. It wasn't as straightforward. Of course, McLaren tried to make it more interesting than they needed to, because that's just how they're doing things. But in the grand scheme, they have the best car, and they were able to handle or manage what was going on and get the victory, get a 1-2 finish, add to their Constructors' Championship lead. So that maximizing everything there. I mean, it was a much closer result than I would think than usual. You had the top 8 separated by just under 18 seconds. You had Nico Hulken. I mean, that's crazy too. Like Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Woody, Hulkenberg with the Sauber gets a 5th ahead of Lewis in 6th. Isaac Hadjar in 7th. Gasly, Alonso gets points. The penalty for fish lips after running into George Russell. You also, Piastri, he got passed by Leclerc. He was on hard tires, new hard tires, and everybody else was on softer rubber, so that didn't help. Then he got pissed about something. So pair made contact, and Verstappen's forced to go down the escape road. That was on turn 1. He was told to hand the position back, but he was already gone. So then he went and ran into Woody, which then caused a penalty and sent him down to 10th at the end of the race. It's typical fish lips. In the end, Piastri now is a 10-point lead on Norris, and with 49 points on Verstappen, so literally nearly a 2-race lead on him. Woody is 26 points behind Verstappen. Leclerc 17 points behind Russell. There's decent gaps amongst the drivers from 3rd through 6th. The next really good battle after is Antonelli and Albon, 6 points between them. Hadjar and Ocon. From Hadjar all the way down to Alonso, who is just got his first points of the year, is only 19 points. So that's pretty good there. Hadjar right now 9th in points. The team standings: McLaren, huge points lead over Ferrari, who's 6 points ahead of Mercedes, and 21 points ahead of Red Bull. Williams well up there in 5th. Toro Rosso 2 points ahead of Haas. Sauber and Aston are tied for 8th, and then Alpine bringing up the rear. But there's a tight battle there. Only 5 points between 8th through 10th. 2 points between 6th and 7th, and then 21 points from 2nd through 4th in the constructors. So that's all to play for as the rest of the season goes on. Drop light for Full Throttle Venture Studio. I have no idea what the hell it's supposed to be. New Invest Technology. I still don't understand what the hell Drop Light is, but whatever. They're going to sponsor Louis Foster for the rest of the year, so good for him. In his chase to win Rookie of the Year. Green Rehal about to start his 300th IndyCar start, which is insane to think, but he's been around a long time, so there is that. We went through the points, but I guess the big news of the week or of today was the news of the schedule, and the the Canadian Grand Prix is going to be running this at the same time as Indy 500. We've had years of the greatest day in motorsports, which had Monaco leading into Indy, which then led into the Coca-Cola 600. That was like motorsports Christmas. This is not motorsports Christmas. And most people are good.
Christmas.
Yeah. This is like, oh, you're with the in-laws, and it's not, if you have in-laws and you don't like them, and you have to go over there for Christmas. That's what this is. I mean, we remember, well, I can remember when the split happened and the US 500 ran at the same, which was the kart race at Michigan International Speedway, and they wrecked coming to the green, and then had to basically red flag the race for like an hour to get a bunch of spare cars out, and then restart the race, which then allowed Jimmy Vasser, who had qualified on pole, to go out and win, which was one of his wins on his way to his one IndyCar or kart championship. His teammate at that time was one Alessandro Zanardi, who was a rookie that year, and built up as the year went on to become the dominant presence that he became over the next 2 years. That race ran at the same time as the 96 Indy 500, which Buddy Lazier won over Davy Jones. And that was a cluster back in 1996. This is two different series, so it's not as bad in a sense, but I think honestly, if FIA was trying to be really smart about it and the scheduling, I get they wanted the logistics of Miami and then Canada, but there's still a gap between those two races, so I don't really know what you're really saving. They're saying they're not going to have the equipment won't be as bad, but you're still going to have the teams, like the people, having to fly back to Europe, do whatever, then go back in for a North American trip. But I mean, it just is not good. There's really, and I feel bad, honestly, because I love the Canadian Grand Prix. It's one of my favorite circuits. It's a track that puts on good racing. Lots of historic moments. Lewis won his first career race there. He won one of his poles there. He won, I think was the one where he tied or passed Senna, and then he got from the family one of Senna's helmets. So I've always had a fondness and affinity for Montreal, and now you're kind of fucking with it. One, because they need to, because they have to move it up relative in the schedule, but you're ruining a good thing. And you're playing with weather in the sense that it could be super cold, or it could be, I mean, we don't know what we're going to get. They used to run the damn race in the fall, which makes no sense either, but yeah, what were your thoughts when you saw the Canadian Grand Prix is running at the same exact time as the Indy 500?
The arrogance of Formula One. That's what I think. I don't know. It's an interesting deal because, yeah, it's interesting you bring up the US 500 because I was not even a year old when that happened, so I can't really talk about it. I can only go back and watch the documentary 500 Miles Apart from Inside the Lines on ESPN. But the Indy 500 starts at 12:45, 3-hour race. Canadian GP Montreal start at 2 p.m. and lasts about 90 minutes, 2 hours. So if they overlap, they'll overlap for the entire part of the F1 race, which that probably hurts the F1 American audience, I would think, but who knows how this is going to work out. I mean, maybe it doesn't hurt Indy, right? I mean, I don't think that it's going to affect the crowd. I mean, the sellout crowd this year, 350,000 people, which I was there for. This year, I mean, I have to hard to think that, it would pull from that. TV ratings, maybe, I don't know. I mean, 7 million people watched the Indy 500 this year. Montreal had almost 2 million last year. So, I mean, maybe it doesn't affect things, but still, I mean, why do this? Like, what was the necessary thing here? And, they didn't, consider the optics here of doing this and ruining a good thing. And you said it's like the in-laws at Christmas. I mean, I said it's like divorced Christmas. Like, okay, well, you got to go spend Christmas at mom's house, but now at the same time, dad's going to hold a Christmas here at the same time, or the other way around, whatever. So that's what I think it's more like, but not really. I mean, not really divorce, because they're not the same series. That would be IndyCar split, but that's kind of how I feel. Like, you got to hold 2 Christmas parties on the same day, or having to go to that or whatever. But I think there was another article that said, well, they didn't intend to do it. And it seems like this year might be the only year where they actually overlap, depending on when Memorial Day falls in the following years, because they were intending on this like being the last weekend in May for the Canadian Grand Prix. But the last Sunday in May is always Memorial Day, but it may not fall or overlap quite as much in the following years after next year. But I mean, who's to stop them from thinking that, okay, well, let's see how this does next year. It does really well. They're like, okay, let's just keep doing this. So that's kind of my worry, is what the future. Yeah, next year, if it's only next year, it's like, okay, maybe you can buy it for a year, right? But once you've given, now I'm not saying that IndyCar gave them this opportunity, but clearly, the F1, they're taking an inch here. Well, more than an inch, I would say, but they're taking this opportunity. And I mean, who's to say that they're not going to continue to do this? So they're like, oh, well, we didn't intend on doing it. Well, good intentions never set a man free. So, I think this, it's the arrogance of this. And obviously F1 blowing up right now. I mean, you go to Walmart, there are F1 Legos in the toy aisle, which I contemplate buying just because, but haven't yet done that. I still have my NASCAR Lego set at home that I put together last year, but you got that. And then F1 movie coming out in a couple weeks here, which we'll probably be watching there, seeing that, which maybe I'll just wear my Indy gear for that, just to spite them there for some reason, even though I'm buying tickets to that movie, which getting the F1 stuff. And then, got all these, hype and stuff for F1. Well, hey, remember when NASCAR was big in the 2000s and Jeff Gordon was on Saturday Night Live, and cars and Talladega Nights were a thing, and still are things in our culture. It's been 19 years since Cars came out and Talladega Nights. So yeah, that was the peak of NASCAR and everything. And NASCAR, the economy crashed, and then NASCAR crashed. So it's coming back, but not as it's not the same. The numbers aren't the same like it was, and all that. Which of course the Indy 500 and the split led to NASCAR, taking that opportunity, right? But the NASCAR, ended up falling down the totem pole, and culture and sports and all that. I have to wonder, how long is this bubble for F1 going to last? Are they going to be able to sustain it and continue to be massively popular? In 5 years, people who are into F1 right now, I've got friends who are paying attention to F1. I mean, I know one friend that I think is legitimately an F1 fan, but I know some other friends that are just have started paying attention more to F1 just because. Will they be fans of F1 in 5 years from now? Right. I mean, we'll still be, I guess, fans or paying attention to it because we're motorsports fans, but people are just bought into the hype and, suddenly getting into it these days. Are they still going to be into it, or it's going to be like, oh, well, that Red Bull jacket I bought a couple years ago, that's just going to be in the back of my closet. Maybe I'll try to sell it and put it on eBay or something. So, that's something that they really have to consider, because they're riding a huge wave right now, but I don't know what's this going to look like here in the next couple of years. And it's great for motorsports to be popular again, but is this just a bubble, or is it truly going to be sustained. So I think F1 doing this, I think, hurts motorsports fans who want to see those 3 races. I mean, we already knew that Monaco was going to be in June, and I think, hey, if you want to expand the reach of motorsports, leave that weekend open and maybe let one of those McLaren drivers that have a team in IndyCar come here to the United States and run head to head, or run in the Indy 500. You have that connection, and I'm sure Fernando Alonso would want to have a shot again at the Triple Crown, running with whoever he wants to run with. Run with Andretti again, or run with Penske if he wants to be on the best team or whatever. So there's definitely some interest. I mean, not all F1 drivers. I mean, Lewis Hamilton doesn't drink sweet tea, but I had to do that. I remember that quote from 2017, but but it doesn't hurt to leave that weekend open, and they're choosing to do this. So I guess the only way to see is to see how this plays out, and next year, a year from now, how the ratings will look and how the crowds will look and everything. And if F1 realizes, I don't know, their decision making here and their error of their ways and walks it back. So we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, it's definitely disappointing if you're a motorsports fan, and if you're an F1 fan, you want to be smug and be like, oh, it's only 800 turns. How interesting could it be? I mean, the Indianapolis 500 is pretty damn hard to win, and everything. So just ask Scott McLaughlin, ask Alex Palou, Elio Castroneves. I mean, you ask Kyle Larson, who tried to run 2 races in one day, and see how hard it was to try to run 2 races in one day. So there's plenty of drivers to go and convince that. I mean, Fernando Alonso freaking failed to qualify for this race 6 years ago. So I think that should tell you how hard it is. So don't be an arrogant, smug prick like some F1 fans are, and I guess F1 themselves are currently.
It's part of. I mean, you also have the connection with the Cadillac team, which will the Dan Tauris / Michael Andretti / Cadillac team coming in. They won't have an American driver. Jack Crawford right now has a possibility of if he can get a run going, maybe doing well in F2. The Colton Herta rumors are kind of gone down largely because of performance, but while they're putting Arvin Lindblad is going to get an exemption. Of course, he's not the first person that Red Bull has gotten an exemption for, but they have different rules for them. But it also probably helps that One-Eyed Marco's fired so many drivers that they don't have options. But yeah, I mean, it's irritating. Quite frankly, I think it's unnecessary and it's pretty bad. It's a pretty bad look for F1, but they don't really care, and I guess that's really all that matters. If they don't care, then nothing's going to change. So that once every 5 years, it's like you had the opportunity to make the adjustments necessary to not have it run into the Indy 500 anyway, so you didn't do that. So that means you had an intention of it working out that way, and you went about it, and it came through. So whatever, and only in F1. But MotoGP and Moto2, we'll get into the roundup here. Try to make it as snappy as I can. Marc Marquez, typical. He dominates at Aragon, beats his brother Alex by just over a second. Pecco Bagnaia is just over 2 seconds behind in third. So that was a podium. He had a clean sweep there. I think Marquez the weekend. The big news of the day. A couple of big news stories here. Toprak Raskat-Lioku, the 2-time world superbike champion, will be coming to MotoGP to ride for Prima Pramac Yamaha. Nicolo Bulega, who's currently leading the World Superbike points, is signed as a Ducati MotoGP test rider. So that is that's big news for them. So two of the World Superbike top riders are going to have opportunities in MotoGP. So that will be, but Toprak Raskay-Lioku getting a race seat is a big deal. And it's something we'll look into and pay attention to as we get closer to that, of course, in the next year. 32 points. Marc Marquez is up on his brother Alex. He's got a 93-point lead on his teammate Pecco Bagnaia, and Franco Morbidelli is 118 points behind. And then Fabio Di Gianantonio is 134 points behind. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter. In Moto 2, there's a tie in Moto 2 in points. You had David Anku, or Deniz Anku from Turkey, gets the victory over Moreira, Baltus. Joe Roberts, a 7th place finish over his teammate Ramirez there. So best run of the year for him. The points going over to Italy next round. Gonzalez tied with Canet. They're 28 points out of Moreira, 29 points out of Baltus, and 33 points out of Jake Dixon. Ramirez, Anku moves up to 7th. Ramirez is in 8th. Joe Roberts now has moved up to 17th in points. So he's jumped ahead of good a number of the riders right now. Next targets would be up to 13th, is only 9 points. So that's an opportunity there. He would need 21. Right now he's 21 points behind 10th place and 25 points behind 9th. So it might be more difficult to get back up there. In supercars, they ran at Perth this past weekend. So the results this past weekend saw Ryan Wood get the win in race 1 for Waukesha Andretti United, and then Brock Feeney getting race 2 and 3 to add to his points lead. He has got 5 wins on the season. And then so results, the driver standings, Brock Feeney, as I mentioned, leading the points, 5 wins, 6 poles over his teammate Will Brown, the defending series champion. Matthew Payne is in 3rd. He's got 3 wins along with Cam Waters, who signed an extension there. So 3 wins, 3 poles. Right now, Feeney has a decent points lead, so I'm curious to see. Right now, it's a 4-driver race, really, for the championship, and it's very interesting in that Red Bull's going to be a Ford team next year. The AAA team's going to be a Ford team next year. Not sure what's going to happen with Penrite Racing, if they're going to stay with Ford. Of course, we know Tickford will. Waukesha Andretti United is going to Toyota. And so there's other things to come along there. The Rally Italy WRC World Rally Championship, World with Flexible Bodywork Designs. Okay, well, I'll have to get into that more. The results and standings of Rally Italia Sardinia, Sebastian Ogier gets back-to-back victories here. The multi-time world champion goes and wins this rally over Atanek, Cali Rovampera, Alfred Evans, so Toyotas, and then Takamoto Katsuda. So that means 4 Toyotas in the top 5. The final margin of victory 7.9 seconds. Podiums separated by 50.5. Oliver Solberg in the Rally 2 category goes and finishes 6th overall and wins that category. Sammy Pajari was 7th in the, the 5th Toyota. Oliver Solberg was actually in a rally. Was he in a? No, it doesn't show WRC2 though, so I'm not really sure. I guess he was in a Rally 1 car. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Adrian Formeau there, Thierry Neuville, defending champion. They were buried down 19th and 20th. Jordan Sedaris for Ford finished 25th, so that's a brutal result for them. The points see Efren Evans with a 19-point lead over Sebastian Ogier, who's won the last 2 races, and then had a great run of 3 consecutive rallies. He's won 3 of the 4 races that he's run, so that's pretty good. Cali Rovanpera gives Toyota a sweep of the podium places as of now. Hyundai with Tanak the best place, 25 points behind Evans. Then Neuville, Katsuda, Formeau, Pajari, Munster, McElrain round out your top 10. Okay, let's move on to World Superbikes. I mentioned the news, of Toprak Raskat-Lioku moving to MotoGP. So that's a big Balega had some MotoGP. Bautista's signs for so Nicolo Balega is going to stay in World Superbike but test for Ducati and MotoGP. So the likely champion of the World Superbikes is going to be stay in World Superbikes. Results are leading into this weekend's race. Balega has a 31-point lead over Raskat-Lioku, over 100 points on Petrucci and Bautista there, Locatelli in 5th. Garrett Gerloff 17th in points, ahead of Johnny Ray. So we'll see what happens this weekend at the Emilia-Romagna round, which will be at Misano this coming weekend. And then, we got Indy next, which will, I think, they have agreed that they're going to get rid of. I heard something, I don't know if it's for sure, but I heard that they're going to change the name from back from Indy Next to, I think, Indy Lights, but I'm not sure if that's the case or not. The results of the last race at Detroit saw Dennis Hauger get yet another victory, led from pole, led every lap. Juan Manuel Correa, look at that. Caio Collet, Juan Manuel Correa, Josh Pearson giving 3 HMD cars. Then you had Lockie Hughes, Sebastian Murray. There you got that. Miss Hummer 2.0 was 16th. Miles Rowe had a crash, finished 18th. So then the standings heading into this weekend's race, Hauger, a 38-point lead on Lockie Hughes, his teammate. Caio Collet is 3rd. Miles Rowe is 4th, 11 points behind Collet. And then he's 11 points out of Salvador D'Alba. Pearson in 6th. So that's a decent battle there from 3rd through 6th. Then Hedge seats, 1 point separating them. Jack William Miller, Jordan Missig, point separating those two. Sebastian Murray just outside the top 10, 6 points back. All right. the last is F1 Academy. So F1 Academy will be running in Montreal for the first time. And so that'll be an opportunity there for the ladies at a track. I think that'll suit these cars a little better, even though they're not as fast. I think there'll be plenty of room for overtaking, hard braking opportunities. So Woog has a 1-point lead on Dorian Pan. Chloe Chambers is 9 points back. So opportunity for Chloe Chambers this weekend, possibly go and take the points lead with a good weekend. You have Nicole Havdra, who's a Canadian, so she'll have a home race. You got Courtney Kroon, American, Chloe Chambers, then and Leah Block, the 3 Americans, and then Ava Dobson, who's going to be the wild card driver this weekend. That was from Miami. Okay, so that was in Miami. I'm not sure. There was a wild card entry for round 3. So I'm not sure who the wild card entry will be for this weekend's race, but we'll see what happens. I mentioned the standings there. So, alrighty then. Let's get into the Canadian Grand Prix. I'm not sure. Yeah, so I picked first. So last time. So now we will go with F1 Canadian Grand Prix. Preview or picks. Josh, you get first dibs here. Is it Oscar Piastri or is it Lando Norris or is it somebody else somehow?
I mean, no, I don't think it will be anybody else. I'm going to go with Lando Norris this week. Yeah, just we'll go with the other guy and then Piastri and then I'll go with Charles Leclerc. Yeah.
So same podium as the Spanish Grand Prix, just swapping the podium drivers, just swapping the McLaren. So Norris, Piastri, and then Leclerc. Then for me, I will go Piastri, Norris, and Fishlips for the top 3. Figure Fishlips is going to try to keep it whatever clean is for him, to try and not get himself into further trouble. And then the McLarens, though, are going to just have too much pace. And Oscar Piastri has improved his qualifying, so it's going to be very hard to see him I have a hard time believing that he will get beat even by Lando in a straight fight. Okay, so yeah, IndyCar Gateway, first short oval of the IndyCar season. First of, about 4 or 5 short oval? Yeah, 4 short oval races that we'll have. It's Gateway has been a track for Penske drivers in the past, especially Joseph Newgarden. But McLaughlin's gotten better on ovals. Powers won there, of course. Andretti has had mixed results. You have guys like David Malukas who have made a name on these short ovals. There's definitely opportunity this weekend. And, Alex Palou coming off of winning his first career oval race and a first DNF of the year back-to-back there, really be able to stand out there. Dixon needs something to kind of get the season going. I'm gonna go. It kind of leans this way, but I'm gonna go against it. I will go and pick Scott Dixon to get the victory on Sunday night at Gateway to extend however many years that he's won a race, and put himself in a great spot for the rest of the season. 2014, and then I could have actually, it almost would have been an opportunity to get him there. But my wild card pick will be Connor Daly. because I think that's why Juncos Hollinger hired him, because they know that he's good on ovals. He had a great opportunity at Indy for a good amount of the race. So those are my picks. So IndyCar at Gateway, Phil says Dixon to win and Daly wild card. All right, Josh. Where do you go here? Do we go Penske? Do we go McLaren, Andretti?
Well, I'll just go with Joseph Newgarden to get into the win column this year. He needs a boost here in the standings, and he won here last year. He's the most winningest driver since IndyCar returned to Gateway in 2017. So, I'll go with Newgarden to win, and then wild card here. Let's see, it's a good wild card. You know what? I'll go with Graham Rahal as a wild card here on the oval side.
Graham Rahal in his 300th start. So that would be something if he actually were to put something together. It reminds me, you didn't make any wild card picks for F1, but I don't think it matters. But so let's move on to NASCAR. And Mexico City. If you ask certain characters, they'll say that it'll be lawless down there, but that's not the case. Not everywhere, at least, I would think. The Xfinity Series, 39 cars for 40 spots. Nobody will be going home. So the Chilango 150 at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez joked around in our group chat with us two and Joe Pissarro that I wanted to know how many times it took Dale Jr. to say that. And I said 88 times. He had to do that. He had to do 88 takes. And also admitted that I have IHOP pancakes Tourette's, because I literally time it for when he yells that, like every time they play that commercial. That means at least 5 or 6 times during a race, I'll yell pancakes, just like Dale Jr. Because I'm a mark now for Redneck Jesus. Him talking, he's interesting. I mean, hell, now that he has his podcast with Amy, it's hilarious how they're so open about so many things, and how she, of course, knows how, what do you call Ralph, as she likes to call him, of course, because that's his government. His voice, and when he gets more fired up, gets higher. So that's pretty funny. Yeah, Josh, you get first dibs here. I mean, we have Suarez mentioned in the 9 car. You have Keebler Gibbs in the 19. Chris Bell driving for Sam Hunt. Austin Green driving for Jordan Anderson. See who else here. Brad Perez in the 45 for Alpha Prime. Sage Karam driving for Joey Gase. Thomas Annunziata, who's been swapping the ride with Leland Honeyman, the New Jersey driver, road racer from Trans Am PA2. Then you have Andres Perez de Lara to make his Xfinity debut. So those are all different drivers than we usually see. Who are you looking at, Josh, to win in your wild card?
I think for me, I'm going to go with Connor Zilic to win this race. He's a road racing, expert as a young driver, but we're back at a road course after, COTA in the spring. Now we're back on the road course, and I think here the young man in the 88 car goes out here and can win this race. And then I guess for my wild card here, I'll try here see what's a good wild card, because there's a lot of guys here, but I'll go with I'll say this here. Alex Labay in the 07 that's a wild card. But he always does well. He always ends up getting like at least the top 15 on a road course and like one of a lower tier car. So I think he can get a decent finish here in this car.
Alex Labay, former Canadian Tire or CASCAR champion, whatever they call it, Pinty Series, whatever. Longtime Xfinity competitor. These are opportunity races for him in his limited races these days. SS Greenlight's not a bad team, so could be an opportunity for him. Kind of makes me nauseous having to say this. I'm picking Keebler Gibbs. I do not want to, but it kind of just stands out that he's going to be in this race, probably have his regular pit crew, so there's going to be different advantages that come with that. He's only there to win the race, so they'll be running the regular strategy. So that'll adjust things a little bit relative to others. And then Austin Green, he gets to run TA2 as his regular job with Doug Peterson, not the former coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, the accomplished road racer Doug Peterson, formerly the owner of Comtech Racing back in the day, in three-dimensional, .com car. So be an opportunity. Austin Green, the son of David Green, the 1994 Busch Series champion, to go out there and get a decent run. Cup Series, last but not least here, Cup Series running the Viva Mexico 250. That will have 37 cars, so nobody going home. You'll have different sponsors or different restrictions because of the rules crossing the border there. Looking at some of these sponsors here. You got Bell Run Mobile One, you got Jumbo Casino Bubba, Blue Part, blah, blah. Trying to see, Richard with Fun Pops, whatever. What is it called? Kroger Colgate for Priest, Total Play for Hocevar, Elf Cosmetics for Catherine Legg, and Safety Culture for Shane Van Gisbergen, and Telcel for Daniel Suarez, because Carlos Slim owns that. And he's basically the benefactor for every Mexican driver there is. I get the first pick here, and I'm going to pick SVG. I think I kind of shadowed the pick earlier. It's a new course, so there's going to be more practice. It's you don't have that many drivers that have driven this circuit before. I'm trying to think. Kyle Busch, Brad, Allmendinger, maybe. There's not that many guys.
Allmendinger definitely ran in a champ car.
Well, yeah, Allmendinger ran. They mentioned that last week post race that was the last time he ran there, and that was 20 years ago. So he weighed at least 60 pounds less. He had even more hair. It's Catherine Legg, of course, ran there in an Indy in a champ car, I believe. Suarez, of course, has run there, but SVG, the last time there was a new opportunity at a road course, was Chicago, and we saw what happened there. So SVG 33rd in points, did qualify on pole for the Open at North Wilkesboro and led that first stage, but lost track position and then couldn't get it back. Could turn his whole entire season around with a victory on Sunday. And then my wild card pick, I have to look at the points. Because you got the 36 drivers that are running all year. But you can't really say that's a wild card. That's what's crazy about it. Like, in theory, I could do it. Like, I should just double down here. go AJ Allmendinger. Why not? He's 19th in points, so it works out. So I am hedging here. Full road course picks, and AJ Allmendinger wild card. Two guys that need a win. One guy who's 33rd in points. One who we consider a definite favorite anytime we're at a road course. AJ Allmendinger, who of course knows he has another year in a Cup Series for next year too, so he doesn't even have to worry about work. Just pleasing Tara and taking care of their baby. So yeah, those are my picks. Josh, you get last licks, but plenty of good options available that are capable road racers.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of capable guys. I don't think that, well, I'm going to say that a Cup regular wins, but I'm going to go with Christopher Bell, due for a win here, which would put him at the top of the board here in terms of wins. And he won here at the other road course that we ran so far this season at COTA. And I think he can come out here and, he's generally been a really good road racer the last couple of years in the next gen era. So yeah, I think he can pull out the W here. Good wild card here. Pull up the standings and make sure I say somebody's eligible here. Yeah, I'll go with Michael McDowell as my wild card this week here. Yeah, so yeah, that's who I'll go with here for my wild card this week.
Yeah, McDowell, of course, has won. He won at Indianapolis. He's won 2 Cup races in his career, and one of them was the Daytona 500. The other one was at Indy. So can get a third historic circuit if he were to go and win in Mexico. Former champ car racer too, so I'm not sure. He might have been there. He might have driven there too. So we'll see what happens though. Josh, it's your time to tell us all things going on iRacing Gaming in the sim segment.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, this week, big week for iRacing. Season 3 update now being released, and there have been huge updates here this week. Biggest update is to the NASCAR Gen 4 car. They brought back the 2003 Monte Carlo and the 2003 Ford Taurus. So a lot of people, nostalgia factor kicking in, a lot of people downloading that. Of course, a lot of people are already seen some paint schemes being made. They've already made up the 2003 Fred Jones Papyrus car is on there, well, rebranded as iRacing. Of course, Dale Jr.'s car is already on there. Someone went and remade the 2003 Talladega winning car from when he won 4 in a row. So it'll be interesting to see. There's always a trend on iRacing. People drive Red Bull cars usually are, bad drivers, bad racers. People who drive, Kyle Larson's scheme on NASCAR tend to drive terribly. Hopefully people, they have a good sense to not, drive terribly driving a Dale Jr. scheme. But, there's always a trend, and sometimes I know people drive like, not Jimmy, but Dale Earnhardt cars on NASCAR, I know tend to drive kind of not good, but it is what it is. But already seeing the fantasy schemes pop out, so I like it because this new release also, it's not just the 2003 car itself, but they've differentiated. So they have the Speedway configuration and the Super Speedway configuration on there. So remember the big nose that the Super Speedway cars had back in the day. That I really like that look. They brought it in here, so it should be entertaining to do that, and definitely gonna have to update that. They've also got the IndyCar update here, so a lot of changes to the IndyCar, how it sounds, how the physics are, the tire model is. Seems like a lot of people are liking the update so far, how it's handling on road racing and everything. So definitely huge update there. GT3 tire model also got updated, and seems like there's a lot of handling differences now between the cars. Seems like the Mercedes GT3 seems to be very planted from what I've read so far, and I think like the Corvette seems to be a little bit more sketchier. So, but it does seem like it's a good thing. It seems like it's going to definitely make things a lot more interesting here on the road side if you're racing in GT3 class. So that's a big update there. Also, huge track refresh update just dropped as well. So several tracks on the oval side, and I think on the road side with Lime Rock Park also getting updated. So that's going to be a huge update there with the graphics package. They added the Iowa Speedway repave, Richmond Raceway overhauls. I mean, to a bunch of tracks: Phoenix, Homestead, Indianapolis, Martinsville got updated, Talladega got updated. So lots of things here. The next gen car got updated to include better aerophysics here to try to better replicate the way that the car handles in the game versus real life. So should be interesting there. Seeing kind of how the dirty air affects cars like it does in real life here. So looking to see how that plays out. Also with the IndyCar, they've given it rain tires to the series, so that should be interesting on the roadside as well. They're going to release the hybrid system in a later update there. Got that there. So they also released the Shell V Power Motorsport Park at the Bend. Second longest permanent motorsport circuit in the world. So should be an interesting try there to be able to go out and run that. Ferrari GT3 Ferrari 296 Challenge, 700 horsepower GT3 car going to be ready as well, and they'll have that AI ready upon the release. So yeah, lots of updates here, season 3 on iRacing. So looking forward to hitting the update there. I mean, it would be a huge update there. Sure. With you at Apex, they'll probably hopefully that they up. I mean, I think they have to in order to run iRacing. So they'll have that upgrade there. So I think, if at least, you do GT3 there, should be interesting to see how that runs. Wonder if they'll do any other series, like if they have an IndyCar series or, any NASCAR series, that might be interesting to try that out as well. So, but yeah, big update here, season 3 iRacing. So this week, of course, is week 13. So, be a lot of shakedown series upgrades and all that stuff. So yeah, looking forward to trying that out here. And I know they have the special event for the Firecracker 400 coming up on iRacing, which I think they're going to be using the Gen 4 car. I have to go back and look at that to confirm, but that should be interesting here, celebrating the tradition, or used to be a tradition of NASCAR 4th of July in Daytona. So yeah, should be interesting to play that out. And yeah, definitely looking forward to reliving the days of old NASCAR 2003 now on iRacing, with the way that iRacing, how they do their stuff, how's the handling changed, and how that car handled 20 years ago, or if you still play NASCAR 2003 now, how it handles versus in iRacing. So looking forward to playing that and seeing how that works out. But yeah, lots of cool stuff here on iRacing. Pretty big update, I think, for this year so far. So yeah, looking forward to downloading that and giving it a try.
So before we go tonight, it was good to get back on it here, talk about all the different series as we get into the summer swing, and a lot of action coming up here. Josh, where can we find you on the socials, and where can we find the GSB?
Yeah, of course, as always, socials, Twitch streaming at USailor2 on iRacing. Go in there and watch that. Hopefully be able to have an opportunity to do some iRacing later in the week. Hopefully, I mean, I was able to do some Michigan Cup fixed and open series this past week and had some good runs. Had one good run that turned into bad, and then there were some other runs that went pretty well, but ran some of that. Didn't stream, probably should have, but I'll definitely try to stream if I have the opportunity to, with the Gen 4 cars, since that's a new update and all that. So yeah, looking forward to be able to run that. But yeah, Twitch TV at USailor2 on there, and then of course my Twitter page at UC or at JP Huffine on Twitter, which of course talking about the F1 decision to schedule the Canadian Grand Prix. At least it's the Canadian Grand Prix. At least they didn't decide to go head to head with the Miami Grand Prix. I'll say that. So that's on there at JP Huffine. You can see all my opinions on there, and of course GSP at Group Share Podcast on YouTube. So go in there and watch that and see all our videos on there and subscribe to our content on there. So yeah, glad to be back, of course, for another week. Of course, we had a bit of a hiatus there, but glad to be able to get back on it and talk about everything here in the world of motorsports.
Absolutely, brother. And it was good. Needed it today. A long day and some frustrating stuff, so it was nice to just go and forget about that and get on to racing here. Josh, of course, handles the Gripster Podcast YouTube page. You can also find the audio on GSP 1428 on YouTube. You can find the Gripster Podcast on philipgmatthew.com and also on Podbean, where it's our hosting site. You can find me at PGMGSP28 Instagram and Blue Sky, PGMatthew28 on Twitter, GSP1428 at Apex One. Struggling through the GT3 League. We'll see what we can do in the wet at Silverstone tomorrow in the Texaco Avalon Ferrari car. Gonna try iRacing because there's a Porsche GT3 challenge. There's a couple other things. There's other challenges on Assetto Corsa. So we'll see. Try to get some of those in. Going on having a vacation, so it'll be nice to actually have some time off. And we'll be back for episode 272 of the Gripster Podcast to go over everything that takes place in Mexico City, Gateway, Montreal, and also Misano for World Superbikes, and everything else that goes on in the world of racing. We'll talk about on the GSP and sports in general, the U.S. Open, Father's Day weekend. So happy Father's Day to your dad and to my dad above, and to all the fathers out there, my buddies that are fathers. So, and yeah, with that, for Josh, I'm Phil. We'll see you next time on the Gripster Podcast.